Beginning as a simple children's book, Harry Potter has evolved into one of the great modern works of youth literature, universally appealing, engaging, and commercially successful. Set in modern Britain, it tells the tale of an orphan boy who lives with neglectful guardians before going to study at a school of magic. It shows a secret world of witches and wizards, unknown to ordinary people or muggles. It follows its protagonist Harry as he navigates his youth, including its turmoil and alienation. We follow Harry as he learns magic, develops relationships, and grows to oppose the dark wizard Voldemort. Aided by figures like Dumbledore, McGonagall, and Snape, the series is an allegory for the war between good and evil, the triumph of tolerance over prejudice, and the victory of the spirit over the body. One of the reasons for the series' appeal is its use of archetypes, first described by the Greek philosopher Plato. He identified them as ancient divine ideas used to organize reality. They are things universal to the human experience, things everyone experiences simply from being alive. Forces like sex and death, male and female, sun and moon. In Harry Potter, Hagrid is large and Harry small, Dumbledore wise and Hagrid simple, Harry good and Voldemort evil. The use of these stark comparisons is central to creating the tone, appeal, and resonance of the series. J.K. Rowling devised the idea of Harry Potter while riding on a train from Manchester to London. She imagined the journey of Harry traveling on the Hogwarts Express to a school of magic. Another early image she imagined was of Hagrid carrying Harry's body across the bridge during the final battle for Hogwarts. Here the idea of archetypes, the large and small, life and death, good and evil, became an intuitive part of her literature. Rowling began writing as a divorced single mother, and went on to create one of the world's most commercially successful works of fantasy. Her manuscript for The Philosopher's Stone, the first book in the series, was initially rejected by publishers before being given a limited commercial release. With its success, it expanded over time into an entire universe with its own mythology. The central figure of the series is Harry, who lends his name to the universe. Harry fits the archetype of the orphan, a kind of existentialist hero, dropped into a world we do not understand. The orphan faces the challenge of life with an additional difficulty, having to do so without the support of loving parents. The orphan is thus an exaggerated version of a character grappling with the human condition. Harry is orphaned after his parents are killed by Voldemort. Left in a basket at the doorstep of his aunt and uncle, his beginnings suggest a great destiny. In a suburb of Surrey, England, Harry lives with his Aunt Petunia, Uncle Vernon, and Cousin Dudley. His adoptive family, the Dursleys, live dreary, unfulfilling lives devoid of imagination. They live in a neighborhood of identical houses on Privet Drive, coming from private, suggesting their insular nature. Harry's aunt and uncle have a prejudice against anything they dismiss as weird, especially Harry's magical ancestry. By denying magic exists, they reject everything it symbolizes: liberty, imagination, and uniqueness. Meanwhile, Harry's cousin Dudley is spoiled by his parents. The series starts with the scene where he complains about getting fewer birthday presents than the previous year. He's contrasted with Harry, who's neglected, left under authoritarian discipline, and made to live in a cabinet under the stairs. Harry's world changes when he receives a letter in the mail, addressed to him personally. It's an invitation to attend Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Small, impoverished of parental love, and trapped under the stairs, he's invited to depart to a nicer world. In the series, the world of magic is a refuge, a world of meaning and sanctuary against the adversities of the real world. Delivered by an owl, Harry's letter is a glimmering that life can be better, or even good. When Uncle Vernon tears up the letter, in ordinary life that would be the end of the tale. Instead, magic enters the story as a source of justice. Dumbledore sends more owls to deliver Harry's letter. The situation then becomes increasingly ridiculous. Though Dumbledore's magic is benign, Vernon is so unreasonable that he turns it into a torment. The house is barraged with letters, while Vernon still refuses to let Harry read one. The Dursleys then flee with Harry to a cabin in the country. Here, the sadness of Harry's life is emphasized on his 11th birthday. He draws a cake for himself in the dust and blows out its candles. He wishes there was simply someone in the world who celebrated that he is alive. Dumbledore finally sends Hagrid to collect Harry, breaking down their door in the middle of the night. He's so powerful, he twists Vernon's gun into uselessness. Yet in Rowling's characteristic humor, Hagrid is good-natured and gentle, apologizing for breaking down the door and reversing the initial fear we have of him. Hagrid gives Harry a cake and even knows how old he is, eclipsing anyone else and showing care for him. He then tells Harry his uniqueness, that he is a wizard. In response, Harry is incredulous, replying he's just Harry, not a wizard. His name recalls Tom, Dick, and Harry, emphasizing his ordinariness. Yet as Harry departs with Hagrid, he comes to see his suppressed human potential and uniqueness. Joseph Campbell, the comparative mythologist, identified a trope in literature he called the hero's journey. A pattern in myths and epics, it involves a hero born in the ordinary world, leaving it and traveling to the otherworld. In the series, Harry does just this. From a place of the unmagical and unimaginary, he transitions into the unknown. Like Campbell's hero, Harry is the Everyman. He embodies the quest all human beings are challenged to embark upon. His surname, Potter, shows the humble profession of his ancestor and suggests the universal call to heroism made to all of us. Harry goes through 5 experiences that represent his transition to the otherworld. Other than the letter inviting him to Hogwarts, he goes to Diagon Alley with Hagrid, goes through the wall at platform 9 3/4, takes the Hogwarts Express, and finally crosses a lake by boat to the castle. In Diagon Alley, Harry sees his first witches and wizards, and learns he's part of a community of magic users. He experiences the excitement of youth, preparing for a new school year, seeing his peers and buying his books and school supplies. He explores wholesomely with Hagrid, who becomes a parental figure, and even buys Harry a gift, his pet owl, Hedwig. At the wand makers, Ollivander offers Harry 3 wands, one like his father's, one his mother's, and alas, Voldemort's, which ends up being his chosen wand. Ollivander remarks on the coincidence, suggesting the close connection between Harry and the wizard who killed his parents. Harry next goes to platform 9 3/4, where he meets Ron and his family and sees the power of magic for the first time. With the help of Ron, he passes through a solid wall and finds the hidden platform. The Hogwarts Express then represents a transition through time. Harry leaves the urban, modern, alienated world behind, and passing through the countryside, travels to a place in harmony with nature. Boarding the train, he returns to the Victorian age of the locomotive, while by the time he reaches Hogwarts Castle, he's returned to the Middle Ages. The Middle Ages is popular in fantasy, as it represents a return to simplicity, when social roles were clear, when the world was smaller and less atomized, and when the universe was organized according to a divine order. First years finally cross the lake to the school by boat, a literary trope when heroes pass into the otherworld, whether Aeneas, Heracles, or Orpheus. They must cross the Styx with Karen. In Harry Potter, Hagrid is Harry's guide, who takes him across the water to where they disembark at Hogwarts. Harry Potter presents an ideal youth, a vision of childhood that few get to experience. In the series, Harry leaves his family behind to study at an English boarding school. There, he navigates childhood's rites of passage, experiencing alienation, social exclusion, and conflict. He grapples with his identity, self-awareness, and the sheer immensity of the world and his place in it. We experience this with Harry vicariously, learning the same lessons that he does. At Hogwarts, Harry is looked after by benevolent teachers, learns magic, and has great social opportunities. His teachers become Dumbledore, Snape, and McGonagall, while he also learns from Hagrid and a revolving door of defense against the dark arts teachers. At school, The students learn herbology, potion-making and transfiguration. They study fortune-telling with Professor Trelawney, and combat magic with Lupin to defend against the dark wizards. The Hogwarts teachers are called professors, suggesting that it's a school of higher learning, and that its teachers are some of Britain's greatest wizards. The cast of the series grows over time, expanding as the book's readers grow older and more sophisticated. The original cast grows to include Sirius, Lupin, and Lucius Malfoy, while the adult figures of the series begin as remote and inaccessible to Harry. As he matures, he begins to understand them and appreciate that they are as human, fallible, and limited as he is. With some, he develops adult friendships, like Lupin, Hagrid, and Dumbledore, showing a maturation from youth to adulthood. At Hogwarts, Harry's professors include Flitwick, Trelawney, Quirrell, and Snape. As he proceeds, he's exposed to the three styles of teaching. These are the authoritarian, democratic, and laissez-faire modes of education. Each has a different philosophy of discipline and concept of the relationship between student and teacher. Snape is an authoritarian teacher. His classes are based on punishment, favoritism, and humiliation. On a personal level, he's inaccessible, at least to Harry, though he develops a close relationship with Draco Malfoy. Lupin is a democratic teacher, combining rules with a sense of familiarity. Though he imposes discipline and punishment, he's also one of the teachers Harry connects the most with. Different from Snape's legalism, Lupin is willing to break the school's rules if it helps his students. Uniquely, he's one of the teachers Harry will develop a real friendship with. Finally, Dumbledore is a so-called laissez-faire teacher, speaking to students as equals and subverting the rules of his own institution. Fitting the trope of an absent-minded professor, he's so lost in his arcane studies that he makes statements that are puzzling and baffling. He warns students not to go to the third floor unless they want to suffer a most painful death, and makes Hagrid a professor after his predecessor chose to retire with his remaining limbs. Possessing a kind of benign dementia, his statements early in the series make up a large part of the series' humor. Dumbledore embodies the transcendent wisdom of the wizard. Like those in other works of fantasy, he resides in a tower, showing that his wisdom lets him live on another plane. When he descends, he offers guidance, showing the path that should be followed by the hero. Out of all his professors, Dumbledore teaches Harry the most. At Hogwarts, Harry enters a world of magic, one instilled with a tone that is playful, odd, and fanciful. It's a world of talking portraits, moving stairwells, and aggressive plants. It's a world of newspapers with moving pictures, and a talking hat who reads minds. It's a world where a ghost teaches the history of magic, where wizards play their own form of rugby riding on brooms, and where they're so out of touch they don't know what a dentist is, or what the purpose is of a rubber duck. The wizards are ruled by a ministry of magic, with its obvious abbreviation. Its benignity turns into humor when we see the magical are governed by a bureaucracy as incapable as those of us muggles. Yet the series' tone evolves over time, shown in how the films gradually become darker, the protective mystical worlds becoming threatening and frightening. J.K. Rowling elevates her universe through the power of names, often with Latin, Celtic, or Anglo-Saxon origins. Their meanings reflect the natures of their owners and imply a long history of magic. Lupin's nature as a wolf is implied in his name, as well as Umbridge's dolorousness. Dumbledore's name Albus means white, suggesting the purity of his intentions, while his surname comes from the word for honeybee, suggesting the image of a benign, dutiful wizard. The Black family, naming their children things like Sirius and Cygnus, use astral names, instilling the family with a mystical aura. Voldemort's name means to leap or vault over death, referring to his use of magic to achieve immortality. Meanwhile, the Malfoys, their name meaning bad faith, show their disloyalty to whichever force, good or evil, is in power. Rowling's use of names, very thoughtful, encourages a reflection on our own, inquiring if they contain insights into our natures. At Hogwarts, students are divided into 4 houses. These coeducational fraternities are named after the school's founders: Godric Gryffindor, Salazar Slytherin, Rowena Ravenclaw, and Helga Hufflepuff. The houses reflect the founders' identities and values, which even a millennium later continue to shape the school. The sexes share the same common room, hidden by a painting guarded with a password, but sleep in different dormitories. Their shared common area creates a sense of solidarity between members of the house. The central house of the series is Gryffindor, who most of the major characters, like Harry, Ron, Hermione, and Dumbledore, belong to. Symbolized by the griffin, a composite of lion and eagle, the animal portrays boldness and nobility, the 2 traits of the house. While the Gryffindor are brave and heroic, they're also brash and unpredictable, rule breakers who recall the unpredictability of the lion. Recalling Godric Gryffindor, the house symbolizes the positive masculine. Its colors, red and gold, imply feelings of warmth, comfort, and familiarity. The foil of Gryffindor is Slytherin House, its snake symbolism recalling the fall of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. Filled with blood purists and villains, its green and silver symbolize deception and guile. Meanwhile, the animal of House Ravenclaw, though not as iconic as the owl, is another symbol of knowledge and wisdom. The corvid is one of the self-conscious animals, able to recognize its own reflection in the mirror. Associated with ill omen, it represents the shadow principle of wisdom in contrast to the owl. Appropriately, their house color is blue, dark, oceanic, and mysterious. Hufflepuff, a universalist house, accepts wizards who don't fit the archetypes of the others. Inclusive, loyal, and just, they stand in solidarity with the Gryffindor to defend the school during the final battle for Hogwarts. They're symbolized by the badger, wholesome, earthy, and benevolent. Their color gold symbolizes comfort, familiarity, and fidelity. Beyond the houses, animal symbolism recurs throughout the series. In art, animals are powerful symbols. They possess traits that produce fitness, visible both in them and in the human beings of comparable temperament. The owl is the most prominent animal in the series, occurring in Hedwig, the messenger owls, and Dumbledore's lectern, from which he speaks to students. An overt symbol, it portrays the wisdom and mystery of Hogwarts. The snake is the next most common animal symbol, occurring in Snape, Slytherin House, and Voldemort. It appears in Voldemort's follower Nagini, whose name derives from the Sanskrit name for the animal. Recalling the biblical snake, the animal represents the fall of man, the temptation toward evil, and deception and guile. The black dog is associated with Sirius, and recalling Winston Churchill, symbolizes ill omen and melancholy. In The Prisoner of Azkaban, it's contrasted with Lupin's wolf, representing 2 forms of wildness or madness, one controllable and the other not. Ron's family, named after the weasel, implies warmth, affection, and familiarity, all things Harry receives from Ron, Ginny, and their parents. Meanwhile, the weasel's mischievousness appears in Fred and George. Finally, the pets of the first years at school portray the natures of their characters. Harry's owl symbolizes his potential as a wizard, while Hermione's cat shows her assertive, phlegmatic nature. Meanwhile, Ron and Neville's animals show their humility and tolerance. Beyond these animals, creatures from mythology also appear in Harry Potter. Many of them are associated with the character Hagrid. In the Dark Forest are centaur, who are noble and fierce like those of Greek mythology. Meanwhile, Cerberus, the 3-headed guard dog of the underworld, appears as Hagrid's dog Fluffy. He gives to Dumbledore to guard the Philosopher's Stone. Finally, the basilisk or giant snake, released in the school in the Chamber of Secrets, has the power to turn its victims into stone like the Gorgon. Like Perseus in the same myth, the students can look at the creature, though only through reflections in a mirror. Other myths occur in the series. In Norse mythology, the god Tyr put his hand in the mouth of the great wolf Fenrir in an effort to tame him. Instead, his hand was bitten off, replaced instead with a silver one. This motif occurs in Harry Potter, both when Dumbledore tries to destroy Voldemort's ring, and when Wormtail loses his hand to revive Voldemort. Christianity is another influence on Harry Potter. Like Christ, Harry accepts a voluntary death to Voldemort for the benefit of others. He also returns in a resurrection to defeat the Dark Wizard for the final time. Appropriately, Voldemort's name Tom references St. Thomas in the Bible, who didn't believe in the resurrection of Christ. During their battle with the Dark Wizards in the Order of the Phoenix, Harry tells his classmates to get behind him, a line used by Christ in the Bible when he confronts the devil. The idea of sacrifice in Christ's blood occurs in the Deathly Hallows. When hunting Horcruxes with Harry, Dumbledore uses his own blood to gain passage in the cavern. He refuses Harry's, saying it is far more valuable than his, referencing the blood shed by Christ during his martyrdom. The same scene involves Dumbledore drinking a potion that causes feelings of guilt and recrimination. Recalling the idea of original sin, Dumbledore blames himself for Harry's situation and the return of Voldemort. He asks Harry for water, referencing the thirst of Christ on the cross. Meanwhile, the cross itself recurs repeatedly. One of Voldemort's spells is a torture curse or crucio, coming from the Latin word for crucify. Crucifixion imagery occurs in The Half-Blood Prince, when Katie Bell is pulled into the sky as if on a cross, when she's cursed by Malfoy's book. Finally, the term Horcrux is a contraction of horrible cross, referencing the harm involved in their creation. Snape, the potions master, is Harry's antagonist throughout the series. At the end, it's revealed that he was a double agent and has actually been a complicated protective figure. Fitting the archetype of the cruel schoolmaster, Snape follows the authoritarian style of teaching. His name, Severus, comes from the Latin word for severe. As a child, he developed a limerence for Harry's mother Lily, which he maintained throughout his life. After being close for years, they separated into different houses at school, resulting in Lily developing a relationship with Harry's father James instead. In a vision, Harry learns his father was a cruel bully who used his magic to humiliate Snape. Seeing Harry elicits complicated emotions in Snape. He is first a reminder of his romantic humiliation, the bully triumphing over him. At the same time, in another world, Snape would be Harry's father, creating a desire to protect him. Recalling figures like Edgar Allan Poe, Snape fits into the Gothic aesthetic. Like a character in one of Poe's works, he's a romantic idealist who's been disappointed, suffering from the pain of unrequited love. After the death of Dumbledore, Snape continues as an agent amongst the Death Eaters. Though without Dumbledore in the Order of the Phoenix, he has little hope of defeating Voldemort. However, his actions help pave the way for Harry's heroism. Thematically, both Dumbledore and Snape sacrifice themselves so Harry can defeat Voldemort. Dumbledore is one of the central characters of Harry Potter, symbolizing wisdom. The other characters go to him for advice and counsel. A foil to Voldemort, he represents a different response to power. Simultaneously, Dumbledore is contrasted with Harry. If Harry is the apprentice, like the Fool card in Tarot, then Dumbledore represents the magician, the full realization of his potential. As the wizard, Dumbledore is an archetype of perfection. He's a magician who's navigated the whole hero's journey and created the Philosopher's Stone. The Philosopher's Stone was the object of alchemy, a form of medieval magic. In it, an alchemist would transmute the base metals into a magical stone. Beginning with the prima materia, or first matter, he would melt these elements down into a black paste. He would then place this paste into a crucible, where it would become purified and white. Removed from the crucible, the white stone would be transmuted and turn yellow, red, and finally multicolored, as it became the Philosopher's Stone. An alchemist who forged the Philosopher's Stone was said to possess wisdom, a perfection of virtue, an ability to create gold and immortality. Alchemy was an allegory for a spiritual process. It represented the inner transformation of the hero or mystic, who passed through the stages of purification, illumination, and enlightenment. Appropriately, in Harry Potter, Dumbledore has the power to apparate, or to take a flight of the spirit. He uses this with Harry to hunt Horcruxes late in the series. Apparition shows that the wizard has obtained liberty from physical limitations. The darkest event in Harry Potter is the death of the wizard. As we said, the wizard symbolizes the harmony of the cosmos. With his death, the natural order is unraveled, and evil is free to conquer the world. Appropriately, Dumbledore is associated with light throughout the series. He tells the students they need only look for light in the darkness, and even as a magical device that collects the lights of lamps at nighttime. His foil is Voldemort, who works in the shadows and cries out to Harry in the graveyard that he wants to see the light go out of his eyes when he kills him. With Dumbledore's death, the light of the world dims. The death of the wizard represents the extinguishing of the light. The blackest image of the series is that of Dumbledore falling to his death. Because of what the impact does to the body, it is a dehumanizing death for such a benevolent and loving figure. After killing him, the dark wizards destroy the school that was a sanctuary for the children. They break the glass and destroy the dining hall, and burn down Hagrid's hut, which symbolizes good and simplicity. Harry is then challenged to rise to the station of Dumbledore. Rowling's universe explores several themes. These recur throughout the series. They include the ideas of the orphan, the large and small, the small can become great, prejudice and tolerance, and the temptation to abuse power. While we've already explored how Harry fits the orphan archetype, the theme recurs in other characters. While Harry is the most obvious example, it also appears in Hermione. Descended from two muggles or non-magic users, she's an outsider in the wizarding world. Early in school, the other characters mock her for being an outsider. She makes up for this by befriending Ron and Harry, and by trying to be as talented a witch as she can. She's contrasted with Ron, who comes from a pure-blood wizarding family, but is complacent about developing his magical ability. Harry's godfather, Sirius Black, is another example of the orphan theme. Disowned by his mother for his tolerance of muggles, his image is burned off the wall where the Blacks drew their family tree. Falsely imprisoned, villainized, and ostracized, he's the perfect figure to form a family with Harry. Finally, Hagrid as a giant is an orphan. Simple in nature, he stands in contrast with the great intellects of the other witches and wizards. After a life of being misunderstood, he's developed a compassion for animals that others dismiss as monsters. As we explored before, stark contrasts are a theme of Harry Potter. Powerful foils and poles create the tone of the series, making it feel meaningful and impactful. Some of these include the large and small, wise and simple, good and evil. Rowling takes characters who would often be at odds and places them in harmony with each other, subverting expectations. In Harry Potter, Harry is small while Hagrid is large. Dumbledore is wise while Hagrid is simple. The Malfoys are rich while the Weasleys are poor. Harry is an orphan while Ron is a large family. Meanwhile, Ron is rich in familial love, but has no money for clothing or school. Harry is alone, but has inherited his parents' vault at Gringotts Bank. Rowling's characters use their surpluses to make up for the deficits of others. Harry uses his golden galleons to pay for Ron's food on the train. Ron's parents turn into Harry's real guardians. Dumbledore helps Hagrid rise to be a teacher, and Hagrid helps Dumbledore to retrieve Harry. Another theme of Harry Potter is that the small can become great. The initial image of the series is of Harry, a small, underweight boy with glasses, small enough to sleep in a cupboard under the stairs. In a harsh world, this would result in Harry's doom. But in Rowling's universe, a wizard can overcome their physical limitations through magic. Not only Harry, but the theme recurs with other characters. For example, Hagrid grows to become a professor, teaching the course on the care of magical creatures. Neville, an orphan like Harry, is embarrassed and humiliated throughout the series. Like Harry, he's lost his parents to the dark wizards, and is a source of amusement for others. Yet at the end of the series, he's heroic, using his sword to kill Nagini, Voldemort's final Horcrux. Recalling characters like Bilbo and Frodo from The Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter's small characters go beyond their physical limits to achieve greatness. Prejudice and tolerance are central themes of Harry Potter, the idea that no one should be judged for traits they have no control over. This appears in the series as pure-blood wizardry. Voldemort, the Dark Wizard, believes that only those born to two magical parents should be allowed to learn magic. He wants to create a magical aristocracy, loyal only to him, and use it to conquer Britain. He comes close to this during both of his rises to power, and his defeat represents the triumph of tolerance. The theme recurs with the Weasleys and Malfoys, with Draco and his father looking down at Ron's muggle-loving family. Only at the end of the series, after Voldemort is defeated, do the Malfoys adapt and accept the reality of magical intermarriage. Prejudice occurs in the character Sirius Black, who in the Order of the Phoenix is blamed for the crimes and disappearances caused by Voldemort. Prejudice occurs against the character of Remus Lupin. Cursed, during the full moon he transforms into a werewolf. Like psychosis or bipolar disorder, he loses all sense of self and responsibility for his actions. He becomes a predator who can't distinguish friend from foe. When his lycanthropy is revealed, he resigns from his position as a teacher at Hogwarts. He tells Harry that prejudice against him will prevent him from remaining at the school. A loss of self and personal responsibility is difficult for most to comprehend. Despite this, Harry builds a friendship with Lupin, transcending the prejudices of other witches and wizards. Finally, prejudice occurs in Harry's hostility to Snape, which he inherits from his father. Harry thinks Snape is loyal to Voldemort throughout the series, showing that even a hero can be prejudiced. He's corrected by both Hagrid and Lupin, who say that if Dumbledore trusts Snape, then Harry should as well. The right use of power is another theme of Harry Potter. Dumbledore, Harry, and Voldemort all portray different responses to the possession of power. Harry will be offered power multiple times, and each time he resists the temptation to abuse it. At the end of the series, Harry gains possession of the Elder Wand, the most powerful wand in existence. It represents unlimited power. Like Voldemort's, he could use it to become the greatest wizard. Instead, Harry looks over the edge of Hogwarts Bridge, referencing when the devil takes Christ to the top of the temple to tempt him in the Bible. Similarly, Harry refuses the temptation to abuse power. He destroys the wand and throws it over the bridge in defiance of Voldemort. The theme recurs with the invisibility cloak, a gift given to Harry by Dumbledore. Harry uses it to wander Hogwarts Castle and explore, symbolizing the infinite inquisitiveness and possibility of youth. Harry uses the cloak to find the Mirror of Erised. He sneaks through the castle to sit in front of it every night. The mirror shows the viewer what they most want to see. In Harry's case, a vision of him and his parents, together as a loving family. As Harry pines away in front of the mirror, Dumbledore comes to speak with him. He tells him that people have wasted away looking in the mirror, wishing for things they desire but can never be. Harry's use of the cloak recalls the myth of the Ring of Gyges. In ancient Greece, the philosopher Socrates told this story to his listeners. It involved a magic ring that, if worn, like Harry's cloak, made the wearer invisible. Socrates' question was how his listeners would behave if they had the ring, which symbolized unlimited power. It was a test of their ultimate moral nature. Did they do good for its own sake, or only to avoid punishment? While a Slytherin might abuse the cloak for selfish purposes, Harry does not. Instead, he uses the cloak so he can experience the love of a family. Voldemort is the Dark Wizard, the foil of Dumbledore. While Dumbledore uses his power for good, Voldemort uses his to subvert the natural order. Having beaten death and able to defeat any wizard in combat, he begins to conquer the wizarding world. As we said, his goal is to create a magical aristocracy, then use his loyal followers to conquer and enslave the Muggle world. Though a half-blood wizard himself, Voldemort is obsessed with pure-blood ancestry, wanting to create a magical racial elite. While malevolent, he does have a value system, valuing loyalty. For instance, when he praises Snape for his fidelity. The only one who can stop Voldemort is Dumbledore the wizard. With his death, as we said, Harry is challenged to rise to the station of Dumbledore. Voldemort has two intimate relationships, one with Nagini and one with Bellatrix Lestrange. The former, Nagini, appears to be the only person Voldemort loves, showing his affection for her throughout the series. Nagini was a person, an Indian witch, cursed to become a snake. Meeting Voldemort as a human, she gradually went through her transformation. Retaining her human intelligence, she speaks to Voldemort through Parseltongue and is one of his most devoted followers. She becomes one of his Horcruxes and travels with him constantly. Meanwhile, her trope recurs with Sirius's cousin, Bellatrix. She's one of Voldemort's most sycophantic followers and shows the qualities of borderline disorder, mania, and psychosis, recalling figures like Harley Quinn and the Joker. She's so devoted to Voldemort, she's willing to kill for him, and even accepts self-sacrifice, as Voldemort goads Harry to kill her. Both Nagini and Bellatrix are examples of hybristophilia, attraction to the most powerful antisocial male. Through flattery, they avoid experiencing harm themselves, and benefit from and share in his authority. In Harry Potter, witches and wizards are afraid to say Voldemort's name. Instead, they refer to him as you-know-who, or he who must not be named. In folklore, to speak of the devil meant to summon his attention to you. Appropriately, Voldemort fits the devil archetype. With his disfigured inhuman face, he tempts Harry toward evil throughout the series, assaulting him with voices and visions. Only Harry and Dumbledore are unafraid of saying Voldemort's name. Dumbledore even addresses him as Tom, rejecting that he's a supernatural creature. Voldemort knows his name Tom, coming from Tom, Dick, and Harry, reveals his ordinariness and banality. In mythology, the devil has a child who he raises as his apprentice. This archetype occurs in Harry and Draco Malfoy, who are both offered the opportunity to be Voldemort's heir. Harry and Voldemort share many traits, due to the connection they made on the night of Lily's murder. Harry can speak to snakes, and is offered a place in Slytherin like Voldemort. Throughout the series, Harry experiences intrusive thoughts and visions from the Dark Wizard, and asks Sirius and Dumbledore if he's becoming more like him. After tempting Harry to use the killing spell on Bellatrix, their struggle reaches its peak in the Order of the Phoenix. In it, Voldemort physically possesses Harry. This represents the ultimate battle within Harry between the forces of good and evil. Voldemort taunts Dumbledore from within Harry, showing that Harry has to decide for himself the right use of power. Like in The Exorcist, Harry exorcises Voldemort like an evil spirit, and once externalized, Dumbledore is able to confront him again. Harry's repossession of his body shows that the conflicts between good and evil within him is resolved, and he's chosen to be on the side of good. The Devil's Apprentice theme recurs with the character Draco Malfoy. Like the Black family, the Malfoys value their pure-blood ancestry, and with their blonde hair and blue eyes, represent a fallen nobility. Though they begin the series as one-dimensional antagonists, their surname, meaning bad faith, alludes to their complexity. In the Chamber of Secrets, Harry suspects Draco is responsible for releasing the basilisk, which exists to kill non-purebloods at school. He is close, however, as the plot was devised by Draco's father, Lucius. After Voldemort's return, the Malfoys are among those summoned to return to his service. When the Dark Wizards convene at the Malfoy estate, Draco is given a seat at the table, while Voldemort humiliates his father. During the gathering, Draco witnesses the inhumanity of Voldemort as he murders one of his teachers for her belief in tolerance. Voldemort tasks Draco with infiltrating the school and killing Dumbledore, even though the task is beyond his abilities. Malfoy self-sabotages his efforts, though harms Ron and Katie Bell accidentally, instead of Dumbledore, not wanting to injure the school that fostered and protected him. When he looks in the mirror, he feels the power of conscience. Ironically, this is the time Harry confronts and attacks him. Draco ultimately plays a key role in Harry's victory over evil. Faithful to their name, during Voldemort's ascent to power, The Malfoys are unfaithful to evil. Draco and his mother both betray Voldemort. When Harry is captured by the Dark Wizards, Draco lies and says he doesn't recognize him. Meanwhile, after their duel in the Dark Forest, Narcissa lies and tells Voldemort that Harry is dead. Before Voldemort attacks the school, Draco is physically embraced by Voldemort, embodying the repulsion he feels from being embraced by evil. Appropriately, the Malfoys flee when Voldemort begins his final assault on Hogwarts. They refuse to attack the school that protected and educated the young witches and wizards. Because the Harry Potter series is a work of youth literature, enjoying it requires a suspension of disbelief. While an adult reader can unpack its contradictions, it's important to put these aside to enjoy it as a work of fantasy. Harry Potter is a tale of good triumphing over evil, the magical overcoming the ordinary, the small becoming great, and the spirit triumphing over the body. The series concludes with the idea of generations. At the end of Harry Potter, the characters are married and take their own children to platform 9 3/4. There, the next generation will undergo the same journey that their parents did, departing the world of the ordinary for the other worlds, though now they will be fortified by the addition of their parents' wisdom. The series ends with a theme of hope. It suggests that the world ultimately has a benign nature, good defeats evil, and that those who seek power for its own sake come to ruin. It's a story of self-sacrifice and nobility, Dumbledore and Harry giving their lives to stop Voldemort. The series offers the experience of an ideal youth, one where the viewer can grow, learn, and develop in the same protective environment as Ron, Hermione, and Harry. It presents a world of purpose and meaning, and a world where magic lets us overcome our physical limitations. It recalls the myths of antiquity, elevating its fantasy into a resilient work of literature. Finally, it employs archetypes, using these powerful symbols to create a work of beauty and universal appeal.